No one deserves to go through something like this behind bars. He has lived in Florida for more than half his life and worked for the same construction job for many decades. Every day that goes without him here is a day lost forever. This is about being human, about love, connection, and presence. The one thing he needs the most is the one thing that we're being kept from giving him, which is us. I feel that it would be immoral and inhumane to let a man who is suffering, who is terminally ill, spend what little time he has left in pain and isolation. Please don't let him die in a cell. Please don't let his vital memories be of those of pain and isolation. The American flag stands for compassion, kindness, liberty, and justice for all. We're all human. I am asking for one human act of compassion to please let my dad come home.
Yes, to both of you ladies on the line, thank you for staying with us and providing your testimony. It's a difficult position for us and for y'all. However, I've listened to your testimony carefully. My vote, again, is to deny the request for conditional medical release. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, though.
I listened very closely to your statement, and you used the words that the American flag represents compassion, kindness, liberty, and justice. And those are all the things that we have to take into consideration, both on behalf of the citizens of our state as well as the person whose case we're hearing. We make the difficult decisions. So I am going to continue with my previous vote, which was to deny the request for conditional medical release. That would be a majority vote to deny the request for conditional medical release.
Y'all, in this video that you just watched, this woman, I believe her name is Cynthia. Hold on. The point is that she made this video because her dad, of course, has been deported. He's been detained by ICE. And she pleaded with the powers that be to release him because he is ill. But in her video, she made reference to the fact that she made a wrong choice. She and millions of others. And what she is referring to is that she voted for Trump. Now she realizes she made the wrong choice because look at the predicament that her dad's in. And my guess is that he also voted for Trump. In her statement, if you'll look on the video on the screen, she wrote that she made the wrong choice as millions of others did. And now is not the time. Now is not the time for us to be against each other. Now is the time for us to come together and to have unity and compassion and action. Those were her words. But you weren't thinking like that when you went in the booth, made your vote on the 5th of November, 2024. That's not what you were thinking about, was it, Cynthia? You thought your vote was going to harm Black people because, as a rule, as a means to assimilate into white supremacy, harming Black people is what it takes. So you and your dad wanted to be on the side of whiteness. So that is why you voted the way you did, because you felt like any negative things that happened, you would be saved, because all your life, your dad had raised you to be on the side of whiteness, to assimilate into whiteness, to be against Black people. That's what you were raised to do. So that's what you did. And now you're getting what you deserve. And so is your dad. I'm in agreement with the decision of the powers that be and denied. And that's what it is.
As easy as it would be for me to say that I wasn't thinking when I voted or that I don't watch the news, I had to ask myself the same question that hundreds of you are asking me, is why did I vote the way I did? I've spent the last few days reflecting, and I feel like I came through some sort of revelation, or like blindfolds were ripped off my eyes. I started seeing things differently. I questioned my beliefs, my choices, and my role in all of it. I started to realize that it wasn't just this one choice I made. It was kind of a accumulation of choices I've been making for years. Like, for example, when I had my first daughter, I never taught her Spanish because I didn't care to have her learn Spanish. And after having my second daughter, I kind of knew that I wanted her to speak Spanish because I wanted her to be able to speak with my family and connect with them and have a sense of belonging with them. The hate I received online, although it was harsh, I feel like it was so needed, and I'm so thankful for it, because it made me realize things that I was blind to for so many years. I feel like living in South Florida, surrounded by Republican voices, I was brainwashed into thinking I was one of them. I fell for the propaganda, the normalization of cruelty, and I believed the lies that gave me a false sense of security and belonging. I was convinced that voting for Trump was for the economy or against crime, when in reality I was supporting a man and a movement that dehumanizes people. He basically built his platform on targeting immigrants, spreading hate, and pushing policies that ultimately broke families apart. I regret my vote so deeply, and if I could go back and change it, I would. My vote wasn't just a mistake, it was the ultimate betrayal of the very people that I come from. My dad isn't a criminal. He was a hardworking man. He raised me and my 4 siblings, and now he's fighting for his life in a cell. I'm still fighting with everything I have to see if I can get him released so that he's able to spend his final days at home surrounded by his family and his children. When I voted for Trump, I supported the very system that allows this kind of cruelty to happen. That is a choice that I have to live with. Some people have said that my family deserves this, or that I or my dad deserve it, or that it's some sort of justice. But no person deserves to go through anything like this. No person deserves to be ripped away from their family. No one deserves to die alone and sick and far from people who love them. To my family, to my community, to my children, and to every single person who has been affected by the choice that I made, I am so sorry. I've started educating myself on immigration, on the US history, on systematic racism, and how people in power manipulate and try to divide us. I'm reading, listening, learning, and unlearning everything that I thought I knew. And to anyone who is feeling the same regret as I am, I want you guys to know that there's still a way for us to move forward, but it starts with honesty first. Somewhere along the way, I forgot where I came from. I forgot the dirt roads I used to walk down. I forgot the bucket paths I used to take. I forgot my mom's struggle and my dad's sacrifice to come to a brand new country to start a life for all of us. When I voted the way that I did, I turned my back on all of it. I know that a lot of you aren't going to forgive me, and I'm really not expecting anyone to, but I just want everyone to know that I'm going to move forward with more compassion, continue educating myself, and fight for those who can't fight for themselves.
Since the election, there's been a lot of hot takes about South Texas Latino voters, Mexican American voters from the Texas border that voted for Donald Trump. And I want to have the conversation right now. Let's do it. So for 100 years, these border counties in South Texas had gone Democrat. From the top of the ballot to the bottom of the ballot, it was very rare for a Republican to be successful anywhere in the ballot. I think there was just like a county judge in Cameron County, Cosco's, that had one, but that's about it. There's a lot of nuance to this, and a lot of people are asking themselves, are these Republican or these Latinos that voted for Donald Trump in 2024 there to stay? Are they married to the Republican Party? And let me give a little bit of context and nuance to this, because I truly think this is a Trump phenomenon. a lot of the people that Trump turned out, young Latino men that Trump turned out in South Texas for him, were what we call low propensity or irregular voters in politics. People that don't traditionally vote. They probably showed up. A lot of them showed up to vote and voted for president at the top of the ballot. Didn't even care to vote for the rest of the positions in the ballot. It's a lot of folks that maybe will show up for the presidential for him, but won't care to show up in the midterm election, like next year's midterm election for Congress and governor's race. And the proof is there, because although Trump won the Rio Grande Valley counties, swept them at the top of the ballot, Colin Howard, a Democrat running for U.S. Senate, defeated Ted Cruz in all of these counties. He's a Democrat. Michelle Vallejo won in Hidalgo County. Vicente Gonzalez won in Cameron and Hidalgo County. Democrats continue to win these counties down ballot. So we have a split ballot. So that means that the data is continuing to show, even into mid-2025, that there is a growing number of Latinos in this region who are truly independent. They're not married to the Republican Party, and they're not really relating to the Democratic Party either. They're sort of just kind of out there seeing what political figure they could attach themselves to. Now, a lot of Latino men that voted for Donald Trump, a lot of them, like I mentioned, were irregular voters, voted for the first time. And polling shows, and my personal conversation too, because I'm a Latino dude, Mexican-American guy from the Rio Grande Valley, from South Texas. So I know some of this polling is accurate, because a lot of them do see Donald Trump as a strong leader and who reflects family traditional values, which is crazy to me. I could never see Donald Trump as somebody that really represents strong family traditional values. Apparently it does for some folks. I don't think so. And I don't think he's a strong leader. People perceive him as strong because of his bravado and his machismo that he tries to portray. And I think he's connecting with some Latino men on that. That could be some of the explanation. Another thing that we can't ignore is that the entire nation shifted to the right. It wasn't just Mexican American voters that shifted, and from South Texas shifted to the right. We saw similar trends with Dominican voters and Puerto Rican voters in other pockets of the country. So it wasn't just Mexicanos from the border. And I know it's like what's getting a lot of attention, but it happened all across the board. I think it was only like a few counties that had net Democratic gains, but it was very much a shift to the right. Young people, Gen Z, Trump just made major gains with young voters, young Latinos, Latino men, young white men, women overall. There was even a gender divide among young black men and young black women. Young black women, of course, voting for VP Harris at like 90%, but that wasn't the case for young black men. And we see this gender divides, by the way, across race. Now, a little bit of more local context for South Texas is that South Texas, one of the largest employers for the region, is the Department of Homeland Security. It's been like this for decades. So we have the Border Patrol Union, that is a big political informant to a lot of people that work in law enforcement. Law enforcement is a big part of our community. Starr County, Texas, one of the rural counties down here in South Texas. Large law enforcement community, law enforcement presence. They have a big hold in that community. The Border Patrol has a big hold of that community. People don't work in law enforcement, or these young men aren't working in law enforcement. Maybe a lot of them are working in the oil fields. These are pathways to middle income careers without having to go to college. And so what happens when you get employed by these organizations? Well, and they're paying you well and you have a career where you're going to be loyal. And that is essentially leading them to voting for somebody like Donald Trump, or being somewhat loyal to the Republican Party. But listen, I think they are good news. I think overall, even though a lot of young Latino men from South Texas border counties don't identify with the Democratic Party, They do agree on a lot of the issues that I agree with, that a lot of us in the progressive side agree with. They might not vote Democrat, but they agree with expansion of healthcare. They agree with raising the minimum wage. They agree with a lot of economic populist messages. They hate corporate greed. And even more good news is that there's been some new polling of these young Latino men that voted for Donald Trump that are ages between 25 and 40, who are becoming more and more uncomfortable with these ICE raids. The ICE raids that are hitting up a working class or working immigrants in this community who are our neighbors is having an impact in how a lot of young Latino men in the workforce who respect other men that work hard, it's starting to shift their mind a little bit about this Trump administration and what they voted for. There's been some new polling too. I think about a year ago, like the most important issue for Republican voters in Texas was immigration. That's not the case right now. It's dropped. It was the most important issue maybe around election time last year, because politicians really made it about that and about transgender issues. But right now people are really concerned about the economy, about the war, about how to pay the bills. Just so much shit going on. So yeah, so just like my final analysis here is that Latino voters from South Texas, even though for the ones that voted for Trump, they're not married to the Republican Party. There has to be an approach to persuade them. It's not just about churning us out. It's about really reaching out to us and telling us why the Democratic Party is better and how is the Democratic Party going to deliver for working class Latinos and Mexican Americans from South Texas that right now, quite frankly, are having a hard time financially, economically, and just trying to provide for our families. What is the Democratic Party offering? And Bernie Sanders was here last week offering that vision. Congressman Greg Casar was here last week offering that vision. We need more bold Democrats or bold progressive politicians willing to present that vision of an equal or an economy that is fighting for the little guy, fighting for working people. That's my take, y'all. Take care.
Florida will be the downfall of Latinos and Hispanics every time. Florida is what I will vote for Donald Trump. Florida is the home of I will vote for Donald Trump. That's where they live. Vote where I was at for Donald Trump. The Florida Hispanics had a hit with that one. Y'all trash. Y'all trash. Trump trash. His wig is trash. All y'all are garbage. Okay? Y'all gonna be the downfall of the Latinos every motherfucking time. Florida Latinos, Hispanics from Florida. You cannot tell them that they are not Caucasian. Like, it's really just ridiculous.
A wave of disappointment. One of President Donald Trump's most loyal voting blocs, Cuban and Venezuelan immigrants. Now speaking out in Miami, a Republican stronghold, as the recent wave of deportations hits home and the Trump administration moved to end temporary legal status, or TPS, for more than 500,000 people who arrived during the Biden administration. Elena Conde says she came here from Cuba on humanitarian parole in 2023. Her husband, Ariel Lara, crossed the border with Mexico twice, once in 2019 when he was detained and deported, and then again in 2022. 6 weeks ago, he was taken into custody at his residency hearing.
So he was given an appointment to go to ICE. You told him before he left for that appointment, you don't have anything to worry about. You haven't done anything.
Instead, he was transferred to Texas, where we spoke to him from his detention center.
Ariel, ¿qué piensas sobre lo que está pasando ahora en este país, en este momento con respecto a las deportaciones? How do you feel about everything that's happening right now in this country with the deportations? You don't understand how this could happen. ¿Qué pensaba que iba a pasar cuando ganó Trump? What did you think was going to happen when Trump won? You're saying you believed the president when he said he was going to deport criminals.
Now, Elena is left behind with her daughter, 7-month-old son, and Ariel's 70-year-old grandmother, who has been a U.S. citizen for years. Together, facing a reality they never imagined.
Toda mi familia votó por Trump.
Your whole family voted for Trump. ¿Lo apoyaba a Trump durante su campaña? Did you support him?
Yo estoy fuera.
You're outside of it. You can't vote. Pero te sientes decepcionada? Do you feel disappointed, deceived, engañada?
Me siento mal porque sé que ellos creían en él.
You feel bad because the rest of them believed in him.
It's a concern Democratic strategists are capitalizing on, with billboards like these calling Republican lawmakers traitors. Still, here in Florida, Trump won almost 70% of the Cuban-American vote in 2024, along with 61% of Doral, home to the largest Venezuelan-American population in the U.S.
They used us.
Adelis Ferro is the co-founder and executive director of the Venezuelan-American Caucus.
How is the Venezuelan community feeling right now, especially in the context of these deportations?
Desperate, terrified. There are people with mental health issues. There are people with panic attacks, anxiety attacks. They rather to die than go back to Venezuela, and then
people
have to stop.
People are talking about taking their lives.
I have those messages
because the situation
because
here
of the situation. They rather
so
to take their own lives, yes, than go back to Venezuela.
The ripple effects affecting families and businesses. This Venezuelan business owner, who asked us not to use his name to protect his business and fellow owners, said the political instability has led to a 20% drop in revenue.
It's affected your clients as well as the people who work here. A lot of people have already invested in businesses here and they've stopped because they just don't know what the future brings.
Still, experts say the current turmoil may not hurt the Republican Party.
All this stuff done in the first 200 days of the administration. They have a long road ahead before the midterms.
Do you think that Trump will pay a political price?
I'm not sure that Trump or the Republican Party as an institution is going to suffer a great deal unless the Democrats can muster an opposition that is a compelling vision as to how things could be done differently.
Did you know that Cuban deportees, especially the ones that are political dissidents and the ones seeking asylum in the U.S., face a significant risk of torture when they come back to Cuba? So when we ask ourselves, when will Latinos for Trump open their eyes, specifically the Cuban ones? The answer is they never will. And there's no better example than a Cuban for Trump than El Funky. He's a Cuban rapper that's currently facing deportation and possible imprisonment in Cuba since his music helped fuel anti-government protests in Cuba. Someone that's been really silent about this case is self-hating Marco Rubio, a Cuban himself. It's a perfect illustration of how much Marco Rubio has changed up during the Trump presidency. Even just a year ago, I'm sure Marco Rubio would have been the loudest person about this case. It's also a crazy example of how much Trump has changed up about Cuban immigration policies. For decades, the U.S. has rolled out the red carpet for Cubans, despite Trump refusing to help these Cubans who have overwhelmingly voted for him. They are still very much pro-Trump, including the rapper El Funky. Talk about fucking around and never finding out.
Now Latinos for Trump co-founder Ileana Garcia coming out and calling Trump's immigration policies inhumane. Basically saying that that's not what she voted for. That to me is funny and also confusing because Donald Trump was clear his entire campaign. He villainized illegal immigrants and basically said he was going to mass deport them. I find it hard to believe that she ever thought that that was going to be a humane process. That was always going to be them racially profiling people. That was going to be them rounding them up like cattle, locking them up in cages and giving them no due process and shipping them off to countries that they are not even from. That was always going to be how it went down. And she's like, oh, people are going to appointments and they're doing it the right way and they're getting deported. Yes, that is what is happening. Is that sad? 1,000%. But I see right through her bullshit. She's a senator in Florida, and now her constituents are up in arms and pissed, and her communities are affected. A little too close to home, right? You're afraid you're going to lose your job. Stop all this performative bullshit. You don't care about those people. You don't. It's exactly what she voted for.